Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I thought, because I think that, you know, Warhammer or tabletop gaming itself is just so good for anyone's mental health, let's actually do a fucking video on how to get started as cheaply as humanly possible and without the huge financial commitment. So this video will include an actual story time of how I ended up in the mental health nightmare and how I got out.
This shit's gonna have nuts in it.
Hey people, by the way, this video may be a how-to, but it's not a step-by-step guide. Make sure you look at all the points, but it doesn't really matter what order you do them in. So let's start with the Space Marines. The Space Marines are basically a massive Swiss Army knife because they're the poster children of the franchise. They can do absolutely anything. Well, yeah, absolutely anything. They have got a unit for anything. You need to take out a lot of tanks. They've got a lot of tanks that they can use, or you can use Devastator squads. You need a fast, nimble army, plenty of jump pack troopers, plenty of options to deep strike, and a lot of teleporty bullshittery. And if you're up against a lot of demons, which are big scary things, then you've got Primarchs. You know, as I said, they are generally a all-purpose army most of the time, and you know, for a new player, they're a great way to start learning the game. So, as we mentioned Space Marines, we might as well mention the Chaos Space Marines. Again, they're a very multi-purpose army, but only if, you know, you told a load of millennials to design a cool thing or a cool power armor suit. You would basically get Chaos Space Marines. And them themselves are broken into 4 groups as well. You've got the 1,000 Suns, Egyptian Space Wizards in big, heavy armor, World Eaters, basically throw everything you've got at something, splat it before it splats back. Emperor's Children, which is one of the new ones. I think I've got a video in the channel about them. They are a fast army. If you want to be in someone's face by turn 1, they're the army to choose. And then Death Guard. I mean, Death just sit there and clog up the battlefield. So as we mentioned speed in the last video, I thought I'd bring up the Eldari, basically space elves. They have a cool ability which allows you to add a dice of a certain number. Well, I think it's called it's like miracle dice basically. You can say, oh, I rolled a 6 earlier, I'm having that and using it later. They also have a lot of teleportery, scouty bullshittery. If one tank can see something, everything can see it, which is horrible. But yeah, it's just a fast, light army. I don't think they're overly tough. I've never found them too much to handle when in direct combat. It's more when they're in indirect combat. So you could use them very much as a hit and run army. And if you want a hit and run army, I'd say they're a good shout. So let's talk about the army. Basically, Dark Elves. Now, Dark Elves I wouldn't recommend them though. I would definitely not recommend them as a new pager. There's a lot of physical, a lot of finding power to do. So you might find yourself in a way more than you can handle. But otherwise, they look cool. So the Orcs are one of the weirdest races in Warhammer right now. There is lore in Warhammer 40k that basically says if they believe it, they can do it. A bit like me and my fantasy football at the moment. But they haven't figured out a good way to bring that to the game. But again, it's a lot of fun colours. You know, they look cool. That's sort of just an example. But again, please check the website for better for the models. Yeah, they're just sort of a mix of scraped together technology. And I think it just gives them a really cool look. Their main rules to Warg, and that basically just gives you a hell of a lot more attacks and a lot more speed. Right, Sisters of Battle are another one to look at as well, especially as a new painter. They're quite simple to paint, and they're basically space nuns in power suits. And you can't say Warhammer players are sexist if they're sat there playing with space nuns in power suits. They basically a lot of flamethrowers, and yeah, it's more burn, stay away from me, but if you get too close, I'll poke you in the eye with a big old mace. So let's just talk about the Imperial Guard. Again, this is a heavy, well, basically a tank heavy army. If you just want to throw 30 odd tanks at someone, this is your army. You know, there's not a lot to say on them, to be fair. They throw tanks at people until people give up. Necrons! Right, this is probably, in my mind, my favourite faction to date that I've played with. Obviously, their sole thing is lots of easy to kill units, but those units will get back up within a turn or two. They will, because they're so slow, they have a hell of a lot of firepower. Great for shooting, not great for stabby. But yeah, see, Necrons in the gist. Put them somewhere, pray they live, and keep bringing units back. Finally, the Tau, which are split into two different sort of sections. You have big off Gundam spacesuits, and then you have the Kroot. The Kroot, in my mind, are pretty useless, but you know, they look cool. And Tau are just shooty, run away, shooty. So if you want to win but not make friends, here's the army for you. No. Now, if you're really simple, please just head over, grab yourself a box of Space Marines. Like, all the other stuff could look intimidating, but Space Marines are always easy to paint, and look at them in the funky colours you can get them in. I would avoid the Redemptor Dreadnought as a starter. I would just get a little 5-man squad to see if you like building them and painting them. So I thought I'd give you the story time, the tea, the whole explanation of why I think Warhammer itself is so important for people's mental health. And that's because ultimately I went through an extremely bad situation, very bad and messy relationship. The woman was toxic, but fortunately I'm one of those people who also treat toxic with toxic, and I will always stay toxic. Which isn't great, it isn't something to aspire to, but it is the case with me. If you're toxic to me, I'll be toxic back. Anyway, we broke up after that pure toxicity, and it left me in a massive depression. You know, I was questioning my whole existence. I went from a guy who went to the gym daily to this that type of lard, which, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I just lost all self-care. Hell, her current boyfriend even bought us up.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
To try and help with the situation.
Buck, please and tell him it's from Booth. Little foreplay.
Remind me what good will come of this?
I don't take the shits, I just disturb them.
But that's a story for another time. But anyway, the mate went to me and went, look, at the rate you're going, we're probably not going to have a man anymore. You know, you won't be here. And just like, right, so what can I do? I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to go talk to people. I don't want to be around people in general. So why don't you join me to Warhammer? So, what, the thingy with the little toys, you know. And you know what? That community itself saved my arse. I'm quite happy now to sit and paint. I still drink, but nowhere near to the amounts that I did. And I even, you know, kind of had a moment of not being fully toxic after running into this ex. Like, I was a bit toxic, but that toxicity was needed. If you're going to tell your boyfriend, who used to be a friend of mine, that you can't talk to me because you two are now dating, then fuck you. But yeah, you know, minus that minor relapse in toxicity, I haven't felt the need to be toxic or, you know, I've just chilled the fuck out. As I said, I still enjoy a drink, but I don't know, Warhammer managed to just clear my head. So if you've got stories like that, please drop them into the comments and tell us why you need Warhammer. And it's not just men, by the way, who could do Warhammer in their life, women as well. Again, you get a community, you get a fun little thing to do at home. And because everyone's so different, you get to experience a breadth of humanity, like, you know, a huge breadth of, you know, it's a breadth or a huge variety of humanity, all from the comfort of a table in between you. Again, that's what I'm working on especially, and I'm also working on all this, so please don't judge, but that's pretty much my story. And again, please leave your story in the comments. Everyone's gone through stuff, I'm not the only one, and it would be nice to hear from all of you how Warhammer helped you out. All the doom and gloom part is all back to what we're talking about. Alright guys, let's just talk about list building for a moment. This is probably 75% of the hobby itself. And that's literally scrolling through units, reading rules, trying to work out how they piece together to create a half-decent army. And yeah, we're just going to show you a quick and easy way for you to write your first army list with the rule of cool. So you are going to need to include one thing as well to your army, and that will be a warlord. The warlords are basically the leader of your armies. It used to be previous editions that you'd get a debuff if they died, but you don't get that debuff anymore. And it's normally a big centerpiece unit. You probably one of the miniatures that you've worked your hardest on. You just really want to show off. Like for me, I use Illuminator Xeris, which isn't a big model, but it looks cool. You can also use little tiny models, like if you're running Space Marines. You could probably run a Librarian as your warlord if you really wanted to. Also, when picking out epic heroes and characters, depending on the detachment, you can add enhancements to them, giving them extra bonuses, making them even more scarier on the tabletop. So don't just put all your points into units. Have a look, have a read of those detachments and those enhancements, and yeah, have fun, guys. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.